You understood an entire conversation, and we haven't even taught you a single sign yet. Actually, you'll be amazed at how many signs you're already using or see other people using on any typical day.
There are also many signs that we don't use or see others use too often. Even so, you will easily know the meanings of all these signs as soon as we show them to you. That's how obvious they are. Gotta go. This is a natural gesture and sign for goodbye. This is a natural gesture and sign for whisper. And this is a natural gesture and sign for great. This is a natural gesture and the sign for fine. This is a natural gesture and sign for stand up. This is a natural gesture and sign for sit down. This is a natural gesture and sign for shh. This is a natural gesture and sign for settle down. This is a natural gesture and sign for look over there. This is a natural gesture and sign for applaud. However, this is the sign for applaud you will see and use with deaf people. This is a natural gesture and the sign for I and me. This is a natural gesture and sign for my. This is also the sign for mine. This is a natural gesture and sign for you. Show the plural for you like this. Pointing to the left or right distinguishes he, she, and it from you. You'll depend on the context to know if the sign means he or she or it. This is a natural gesture and the sign for they. You, and you is they. This is also the sign for the plural of you. Picture yourself pushing an object when you sign push. Can you picture the rope as you pull it? I'm giving someone a gift. I'm taking a towel that someone handed me. Imagine you're holding a bouquet of flowers. Climb up one rung at a time. Grab the steering wheel and drive the car. You see the sign for telephone used in TV shows and movies all the time. Put food in your mouth and eat it. Take a drink from the cup. Point the camera and press the button to take a picture. Pretend to be playing a guitar. Pretend to be playing a flute. Pretend to be playing a piano. Pretend to be playing the drums. Pretend to be playing a trumpet. Pretend to be playing the clarinet. The right facial expression adds the final touches to this sign. A monkey's very happy when he's peeling a banana. Now you'll see the signs we just showed you in sentences. We won't have any open captions on the screen because we want you to read the signs and not the text. View these sentences a few times for receptive practice, and when you want to know if you are reading them right, turn on the closed captions or refer to your student manual.
After you practice reading the signs, you can practice signing the sentences yourself. Begin by copying the signers you see. Then when you feel comfortable, pause the tape at the beginning of each sentence. Sign it first, then play the tape to see again how it was signed.
When you just start signing, you'll probably be thinking in individual words and signs like I eat, I drink. As you become more comfortable communicating visually, these pauses will disappear as you start thinking in phrases and sentences instead of single signs.
Watch now as Mary Lou and Daniel communicate an entire story with just their facial expressions. Ready on the set? Action! Please use facial expressions along with your signs so that you can become a truly effective signer.
Boy, that tired me out.
Yeah, me too. I'm not used to such varied activities in such a short amount of time, but it was worth it if we made our point. Even though this is the standard sign for ball, the way you sign ball will depend on the ball you're using.
And we didn't even use a bowling ball, a racquetball, or a beach ball.
All we want you to learn and remember is that even though there's a standard sign for each object like ball or activity like push, you'll adjust your signing depending on the situation you're in.
Yes, and we showed you that with ball already. Now we'll give you some practice with other words you've learned to sign like push, a stroller, a wheelchair, a person, or even a car!
Watch how Daniel and I adjust our signs to fit the situation in this little skit we're going to do for you.
What you doing?
Do I have to draw you a picture? Oh, I am drawing a picture. What do you think?
Okay, let's see. Well, that's a boy, and that's a dog, and that's, piece of paper?
Right. The boy's homework. I call it The Dog Ate My Homework. Bye.
It's amazing how little detail of the object you need to see to know what it is. Okay, maybe not the homework, but it was easy for us to recognize the boy and the dog even though they're drawn as stick figures. Sign language is full of signs that are just a part of the whole objects they represent. Like this boy with his cap on. In sign language, just taking hold of the brim of the boy's hat, this little part, is the sign for the entire boy. It originated quite a long time ago when boys wore caps that actually weren't much different than caps boys wear today, except boys back then didn't wear their caps backwards. You'll soon notice that a number of signs about males are made at the top of the head, because boys wore caps and men wore top hats when the signs originated. Signs about females are made at the bottom of the face, because when the sign originated, both girls and women wore bonnets with bows that tied near their chins.
Okay, show's over. Move it out, show's over. In this lesson, we'll show you lots of signs that represent one or a few parts of the entire real object, like this sign for policemen, his or her badge. Didn't I tell you that the show was over, buddy?
What you doing?
Do I have to draw you a picture? Oh, I am drawing a picture. What do you think?
Okay, let's see. Well, that's a boy, and that's a dog, and that's, piece of paper?
right. The boy's homework. I call it the dog ate my homework. Bye.
It's amazing how little detail of the object you need to see to know what it is. Okay, maybe not the homework, but it was easy for us to recognize the boy and the dog even though they're drawn as stick figures. Sign language is full of signs that are just a part of the whole objects they represent. Like this boy with his cap on. In sign language, just taking hold of the brim of the boy's hat, this little part, is the sign for the entire boy. It originated quite a long time ago when boys wore caps that actually weren't much different than caps boys wear today, except boys back then didn't wear their caps backwards. You'll soon notice that a number of signs about males are made at the top of the head, because boys wore caps and men wore top hats when the signs originated. Signs about females are made at the bottom of the face, because when the sign originated, both girls and women wore bonnets with bows that tied near their chins.
Okay, show's over. Move it out, show's over. In this lesson, we'll show you lots of signs that represent one or a few parts of the entire real object, like this sign for policemen, his or her badge. Didn't I tell you that the show was over, buddy?
The brim of a boy's cap is the sign for the entire boy. The sign for man begins at the top of the head near the top hat men wore and ends on the chest where men living in the 19th century wore ruffled shirts along with their top hats. The sign for girl traces the ribbon of the bonnet that girls used to wear. The sign for woman begins at the bottom of the head near the ribbon of the bonnet that women wore and ends on the chest on their ruffled blouses. I just indicate the height of a boy or girl for child. Every uniformed police officer wears a badge right here. The sign is the same for policewoman and policemen. The fireman's hat has this prominent shape in front. Both firemen and firewomen are signed the same way. I'm showing only the cat's whiskers. Here are just the cow's horns. The most unique part of an elephant is its trunk. Here's the most recognizable part of a lion, his mane. The tiger's stripes are its most recognizable part. The most prominent part of the giraffe is, of course, its neck. This is the eagle's hooked beak. Follow the outline of a mountain as it slopes upward. The two sides of a valley slope downward. This is the span of a bridge and the supports holding it up. See the roof and the side walls of the house? We just show the top of the table in this sign. In this sign, we have the shape of a bunch of grapes. Two slices of bread show us a sandwich. Here's the hot dog in a bun. This is the shape of bacon sizzling.
We'll often teach you an additional sign or two right before you do the practice sentences. Sometimes the words relate to previous words you've already learned. Other times the words are preview of a future lesson. In either case, these extra vocabulary will help us to provide you with meaningful practice.
This time, we want to show you the sign for fly, even though it's probably one you already know. We also want to show you the sign for into. The sign for into is a preview of Lesson 11 where you'll use hand shapes to represent people and things. Look for into when I show you a boy carrying a cat into a house.
As you view the practice sentences, watch where the signs are placed in each scene to communicate a clear visual picture. You'll learn more about how to do this in a future lesson.
Up here is where I'm indicating the endless sky. This is the round sun in the sky. This is the face of the moon, which is shown as just a crescent. Here is a bolt of lightning. This is the shape of a rainbow starting on the ground and moving through the sky. The most prominent feature of an owl is its big eyes. Here's the beard of a goat, and here's his horns. Think of your cheek as a shiny red apple, and your knuckle is the stem sticking out of the apple. A peach has fuzz, and so do a lot of human faces. Stroke the side of your face to indicate the fuzz of a peach. This is the size and shape of a plate. This is the size and shape of a bowl. Down here, I'm indicating the flat surface of a floor. This is the shape of a skirt where it would be worn. This is the shape of pants and where they would be worn. This is the length of shorts. Here are just the lapels of the coat. Pull at your shirt for the sign for shirt. Clearly, this is the shape of a box. Can you visualize a winding road as I create it? It could easily be a straight road or a pathway.
I'd like to show you a sign related to the signs for wash that you learned in Lesson 1. You already saw how to sign wash your face and wash your hands, and now we're going to use the sign for washing clothes in a washing machine.
Notice again how we place our signs to create a visually accurate scene.
I'd like to show you a sign related to the signs for wash that you learned in Lesson 1. You already saw how to sign wash your face and wash your hands, and now we're going to use the sign for washing clothes in a washing machine.
Notice again how we place our signs to create a visually accurate scene.
I'd like to show you a sign related to the signs for wash that you learned in Lesson 1. You already saw how to sign wash your face and wash your hands, and now we're going to use the sign for washing clothes in a washing machine.
Notice again how we place our signs to create a visually accurate scene.
In this wrap-up, we'll show you the signs for book and magazine, which show one part of the whole thing, the covers of the book and spine of the magazine. And what's inside a book? Words. We'll show you the sign for word as just one part of a line of several words. We'll also show you the sign for groups of words that form a list, sentence, paragraph, chapter, and story, and a few other related signs.
Your hand is a piece of paper, and these are the lines of things on your list. For a really long list, let your fingers be the items of the list which extend to show its long length. This represents a single line of words, and this is just one word on the line. Hold a single word with the thumb and index finger of both hands and stretch the word into a whole sentence. Captions are a variation of the sign for sentence. Captions. Your hand represents a piece of paper, and this amount of text on a page is a paragraph. Sign paragraph twice to show that more than one paragraph can result in a whole chapter. This sign is a variation of the sign for sentence. Creating many sentences can result in an entire story. You will also see people use all of their fingers as they sign story. This sign is similar to the sign for story, as you add just one more sentence to your story, and. The book is closed and now it's open. Signing it twice is the sign for book. Represent a magazine with your hand and run your index finger and thumb along its thin spine. If you've ever played charades, you'll recognize these quotation marks as the sign for title.
Looks like this lesson's nearly at the end.
All objects come to an end. Move your hand over the top of the object and down at the end. Back in Lesson 1, you realized you knew quite a few signs already.
More than 100, actually.
But you'll be surprised at how many more signs you can easily understand because they look like the actions they represent.
Like draw, show, and smile, and erase, and remove.
Let's leave a word or two for the lessons, okay?
Okay.
Touch type or hunt and peck. This is your frying pan, and you're frying your food on both sides. This is also the sign for cook. Imagine one hand is the wall you're painting, and the other hand is your brush. You can use a smaller brush to paint smaller areas. Your hand is your canvas, and this is your artist's brush. The generic sign for open looks like the flaps of a box you're opening. This sign varies greatly with the situation. The generic sign for close looks like the flaps of a box are closing. This sign varies greatly with the situation. Send the imaginary object resting on the back of your hand toward its new location. When you get something, you often take a hold of it with both hands and pull it towards you. This is also the sign for receive. I have something in my hands, but I dropped it and it's lost. I'm looking for something like a small coin or an earring. I find it, so I pick it up. I want to show you this. You're holding something and want to save it. Moving the letter V up to your hand emphasizes that you want to keep it. Imagine you're holding the size of a box. Put it down in front of you to leave it there. Think of your hand as a piece of paper. Now take an image from here and copy it onto the paper. This hand represents one object, and this hand represents another object. Now let's compare them. If I have something in my hand that I don't want, I just remove it. Think of your hand as an even larger surface, like a table. Gather up everything by pulling them toward you. Think of your hand as a piece of paper. Take a big eraser and erase everything on this paper. In this sign, I hand things out to several people at one time instead of one by one. Builders build a brick house one brick at a time. Imagine the top brick in a stack of bricks. Now I'm increasing the stack by one. Imagine the top brick in a stack of bricks. Now I'm decreasing the stack by one. You already learned the sign for house. This is the roof of the house, and it's collapsing. When we make this sign, first think about erasing everything from the surface, then come back knuckle to knuckles to make sure everything is definitely destroyed. Connect two rings. This is also the sign for join. Two people are cooperating if they're connected while doing some activity. Show three or more people cooperating this way. This is also the sign for relationship. Disconnect two rings. In the sign for become, something starts off in one position and becomes completely turned around. This is also the sign for turns into. Change is similar to the sign for become. Turn an object completely around. It started in this position and it changed to this other position. I hold two objects. One is close to me, the other is further away. Then I reverse positions by exchanging them.
Some signs move in the direction of the receiver, like give, push, send, and show. So if it's clear who's receiving something, you don't have to provide the information a second time with a pronoun.
I could sign, I'm sending you, or I'm sending him, or I'm sending her something. But if I already know that you is Bob, or him is a policeman, or her is the girl, then I can incorporate the pronoun into the sign. I'm giving you, I'm pushing you, I'm showing him, I'm sending her.
Another example of this concept is the sign for book. The sign for book shows the covers of the book opening. So if I wanted to sign open the book, I just sign book in one motion, opening.
Since sign language is based on creating visual pictures, you want to make these pictures as clear as possible. Even though you're not learning the letters of the manual alphabet until the next lesson, you've already used the letter U in the sign for us.
In this lesson, we showed you the sign for save. That includes the letter V as you pull it toward you. We also showed you the letter E in the sign for engage.
You'll encounter all of these words in the following practice and the rest of the letters of the manual alphabet in the following lesson. The baby comes into the world into a waiting hand. This hand represents your destination. When you've reached your destination, you've arrived. Tears streaming down the cheeks is an obvious sign for cry. Our chests expand and contract as we breathe. This is actually the sign for bed. Showing how your eyes slowly close as you fall asleep is a sign for sleep. See how something, like a plant, grows taller. Use this motion twice to make the sign for spring when lots of new plants grow. The sign for spring is also the sign for plant. Showing a person getting taller and taller shows how we physically grow up. Kids often complain how their siblings are bothering them by touching them. The sign for bother is also repeated, touching like this. You'd stop too if you hit an immovable barrier. You can defend or protect yourself much like football players do at the line of scrimmage. This is also the sign for protect. Your hand, my hand. I'm leading you by the hand. This is also the sign for guide. Gently pushing someone forward is the way to encourage her. I gesture you to come toward me to welcome you. This is also the sign for invite. I gesture two people toward each other so I may introduce them. I imagine I'm pressing someone I love close to my heart. The sign for pray is very much the sign for ask. Begin the sign here and bring your hands up to your body to sign ask. We accept someone or something when we pull it close to us. Think of this as a diamond engagement ring. You may see people use the fingerspell letter E for ring. Can you picture two people kissing? The bride and the groom clasp hands during the marriage ceremony. Raise the corners of your mouth into a smile. Many smiles often turn into laughter. This is certainly one way to congratulate someone. One way to celebrate a victory is to wave flags. Well, maybe not you, but some people do. I think we'd all agree that if you had this around your neck, you'd literally be stuck. A villain who kills often uses a knife to accomplish the deed. Stick the knife, represented by your index finger, into the victim. Often you see people lay back and rest. No, not just dead people. Lazy people too. The sign for lazy is made with one hand forming the L. We sometimes see people hitting their chest as they cough. Insert the needle and inject the medication. Use your thumb as a scalpel and make the incision like so. You remember the sign for pick up and move? Now, as I leave, I'm picking myself up and moving away from here. Even though you're not learning the letters of the manual alphabet until the next lesson, you've already used the letter U in the sign for us.
In this lesson, we showed you the sign for save. That includes the letter V as you pull it toward you. We also showed you the letter E in the sign for engage.
You'll encounter all of these words in the following practice and the rest of the letters of the manual alphabet in the following lesson.
There are still a few more signs that we want to show you as a part of this lesson. Do you remember the sign for here and dear? Now for the rest of the senses.
Bring the morsel of food on your middle finger to your mouth to taste it. Fan a smell in the air towards your nose to smell it. Touching the back of your hand with your index finger is a sign for touch. We often say we hold our feelings in our heart. Touch the area around your heart to sign feelings. The V coming out from your own eyes is used to represent eyes seeing. Poking out your eyes with these sharp prongs would result in blindness. The sign for a hearing person is based on the fact that a hearing person speaks. Let your index finger represent words rolling out of your mouth. This is also the sign for say. Point to your mouth and your ear to indicate that a person is deaf. Pulling an object to your chest shows that you have it. Think of laying something across your cupped open hands and pull it toward you to indicate that you want it. I buy something by taking the money from my hand and giving it to the seller, assuming I'm using cash and not a credit card. I buy when I shop. I might stay in a store for hours. If you picture flat hands for stay, it would look like the natural gesture for stay. Stay. When you waste money, you could say you're just throwing it away. I can be very obvious by pointing to the palm of my hand where I want the money that you owe me. When you sign pay, think of paying for something with coins. This is the sales counter, and you're pushing coins towards the seller.
Joan, I can't tell you who I saw with D-O-N-N-A now, because the KID is listening. I can't. Okay. Daniel, it's such a nice day, honey. Why don't you go play outside?
Because I don't want to, M-O-M. The KID would like to go up to his room and play Nintendo while you tell Mrs. Lipsky about Aunt D-O-N-N-A. You can also spell any word in sign language using the 26 letters of the manual alphabet, although you would rarely spell a word that has a sign.
Especially around a KID who could also S-P-E-L-L. But in sign language, there are many words that don't have signs yet, like the names of new technologies or the names of people who suddenly make the news headlines.
You'll also fingerspell words whenever the people you're talking to don't understand your sign. Maybe because you're not producing it right yet, or maybe because they haven't learned that particular sign yet.
That happens with all languages, not just sign language. Everyone is not familiar with all the same vocabulary, especially technical vocabulary, when we're exposed to new technologies. And when we travel around the country, we often find ourselves baffled by some word that is regularly used by the local population.
I guarantee you'll run into words you've never encountered before in Louisiana, though I'm sure people run into the same situation all across the country.
And of course, there's acronymitis, which drives us all crazy. Sure, we all know the meanings of FBI, TLC, and NAACP, but lots of us still don't know the meanings of DNA, IBM, and DOG. Oh, just kidding.
Actually, abbreviations and acronyms are widely used in sign language because it speeds up the communication process. Why fingerspell apartment and vice president when you could spell APT and VP instead?
So now that you know why you're learning to fingerspell, let's tell you a little bit about how you're going to learn it. Lots of the fingerspelled letters look just like the printed letters, like W, L, and C. Other fingerspelled letters look similar to the printed letter, like K, E, and M. Then the fingerspelled letters become less and less related to the printed letters. So we'll take you from the obvious
Oh yes, I can clearly see that's an L.
to the less obvious,
Yes, I can see how that looks like a K.
to the not obvious.
I'll accept that's an R and promise to use it for good and not evil.
So ready, set, spell.
So what letter is this? W. Right. And this? Yes, O. The O you've been using to sign 0 and none. And what letter is this? Of course, the letter V that we've seen people use on TV to show V for victory or peace. What letter does this look like? Right, L. And this? Yes, C. A thick C, but definitely a C. This letter looks just like its related printed letter, except without the dot over it. What is it? I. Right. And finally, two letters are fingerspelled by drawing them. This one is the most obvious. Yes, Z. Better known by some as the mark of Zorro. And finally, this one without the dot over it, J. This should look like the letter J to you as you make it, and a mirror image of a J when you read it. Moving the letter N up where you would see north on a map is the sign for north. Moving the letter E to the right where you would see east on a map is the sign for east. Sign Monday by moving the letter M facing outward in small circles to represent the hours of the day. Shaking the letter Y is the sign for yellow. Shaking the letter E is the sign for emergency. Signs for males are made at the top of the head because the sign for man originated in the 19th century when men wore top hats. Sign uncle by forming the letter U and making a circular motion near the top of the head. In some places, you'll see the circular U made over the right side of the chest. Uncle. Signs for females are made at the bottom of the head because the sign for woman originated in the 19th century when women wore bonnets with bows that tied near their chins. Sign aunt by forming the letter A and making a circular motion near the bottom of the head. In some places, you'll see the circular A made over the right side of the chest. Aunt. Sign niece by forming the letter N and making a shaking motion near the bottom of the head. Sign nephew by forming the letter N and making a shaking motion near the top of the head. Shaking the letter K is the sign for kitchen. Shaking the letter D is the sign for Democrat. The sign for authority is based on the sign for muscle. Sign muscle using the letter A for authority. The sign for example is based on the sign for show. Use the letter E while signing the movement for show twice for example. Fingerspell AC for air conditioning. Fingerspell OK for OK. Fingerspell MAYO for mayonnaise. Making this modification of the fingerspelled letters N-O is the commonly used sign for no. Of course, the natural gesture for no is just shaking your head no. This is the letter U, which looks like a printed U without the space in between, which would turn it into a V. U. You've been using this letter in the sign for us. This is the letter Y that has the shape of a capital Y. The letter A has the shape of a lowercase a. If you pretend to knock on a door, your fingers will be in the right position to make the letter A. D has the shape of a lowercase d. Make a 1 and move your fingers slightly to form the shape of a D. E has the shape of a lowercase e. Think about making a salute with your thumb across your palm, then bring down your fingers to rest on your thumb. E. M has the shape of a lowercase m. Bring the 3 fingers from a W down over your thumb. M. N has the shape of a lowercase n. Make the letter U and bring your fingers down over your thumb. N. And finally, K has most of the shape of the printed letter K, except it's missing one leg. Make a 2 and put your thumb on your middle finger to form the letter K. Moving the letter S down where you would see south on a map is the sign for south. Sign Tuesday by moving the letter T facing inward in small circles to represent the hours of the day. Sign Friday by moving the letter F facing inward in small circles to represent the hours of the day. Sign Saturday by moving the letter S facing inward in small circles to represent the hours of the day. Because T is the first letter of Tuesday and Thursday, we sign Thursday with an H. Move the letter H in a small circle to represent the hours in the day. You'll also see people fingerspelling TH twice. The sign for Sunday is based on a day of worship. The hands are extended towards the heavens in a gesture of worship. This is also the sign for wonderful, great, and Excellent! Sign history by moving the letter H in small circles to represent the passage of time. Context will distinguish this sign from a sign for Thursday, which is often made the same way. Shaking the letter B is the sign for blue. Shaking the letter P is the sign for purple. Shaking the letter G is the sign for green. Shaking the letter R is the sign for Republican. Shaking the letter T is a sign for toilet and bathroom. The sign for room is based on the sign for box. Sign box using the letter R for room. Sign eat and room for dining room. The sign for restaurant is based on a modification of the sign for eat. Form the letter R and brush it along the left side, then the right side of your mouth. Fingerspell HH with its bouncing motion for hard of hearing. Fingerspell the initials of French fries, FF, with this bouncing motion for French fries. Fingerspell BBQ with this bouncing motion for barbecue. Picture yourself pushing an object when you sign push. Use the letter T for try. This sign is related to the sign for body. Form the letter P on both hands and slide them down the sides of your torso to represent an entire person. Use the letters I to sign individual. Sliding your flat open palms down the sides of your torso is a sign for a person doing something and is preceded by a verb, like drive, driver, or write, writer. Signs for males are made at the top of the head because the sign for man originated in the 19th century when men wore top hats. Signs for females are made at the bottom of the head because women wore bonnets with bows that tied near the chins. Sign parents by forming the letter P in the top of the head and moving it to the bottom of the head to indicate that both the mother and the father are parents. The sign for allow is a modification of the sign for road and way. When you're allowed to do something, you're provided with a straight pathway toward your goal. Use the letter P's for permit. Use the letter O and switch to the letter P for opportunity. Fingerspell TV for television. Fingerspell the abbreviation APT for apartment. Fingerspell VEG for vegetable. Fingerspell BUS for bus. A quick fingerspelling of JOB is the sign for job. Sign dog by snapping your fingers, which looks like a quickly fingerspelled dog. The sign for fingerspelling is moving your hand as if you were fingerspelling. The sign for signing is signing. You learn to fingerspell K, which looks like, right, K. Point your K down for the letter P. Maybe you can use the military abbreviation KP, Kitchen Patrol, to remember the similarities between K and P. Take the letter U and point it forward for the letter H. It's like flight attendants. Cross your two fingers and your H or U becomes an R. For really wanting something to happen, R. Remember how you made an N? Right. Just put your thumb in between your two fingers to form a T. Maybe remembering T and T will help you remember the similarities between an N and a T. The letter F is a reversal of the letter D. In the letter D, your index finger is up and all the others are down. To form the letter F, your index finger is down and all the other fingers are up. D, F, D, F. Actually, this letter should look very familiar to you as a sign for fine, which you've been using since lesson 1. If you make the letter D, or with tighter fingers the number 1, and bend your index finger, you form the letter X. The letter B is a reversal of the letter E. In the letter E, all your fingers were down, resting on your thumb. To form the letter B, keep all of your fingers up. Remember, it's like a little salute. The letter S is similar to both the E and the A. This time, put your thumb over your fingers, making a fist. Imagine you're about to strike someone to form the letter S. The last two letters, G and Q, look like each other, but not like any other letter. You make a G with your thumb and index finger parallel to each other. It looks just like the shape of the natural gesture for a little bit. G. Move your fingers into a downward position for Q. Now you've learned all 26 letters of the manual alphabet. You learn to fingerspell K, which looks like, right, K. Point your K down for the letter P. Maybe you can use the military abbreviation KP, Kitchen Patrol, to remember the similarities between K and P. Take the letter U and point it forward for the letter H. It's like flight attendants. Cross your two fingers and your H or U becomes an R for really wanting something to happen. R. Remember how you made an N? Right. Just put your thumb in between your two fingers to form a T. Maybe remembering T and T will help you remember the similarities between an N and a T. The letter F is a reversal of the letter D. In the letter D, your index finger is up and all the others are down. To form the letter F, your index finger is down and all the other fingers are up. D, F, D, F. Actually, this letter should look very familiar to you as a sign for fine, which you've been using since lesson 1. If you make the letter D, or with tighter fingers the number 1, and bend your index finger, you form the letter X. The letter B is a reversal of the letter E. In the letter E, all your fingers were down, resting on your thumb. To form the letter B, keep all of your fingers up. Remember, it's like a little salute. The letter S is similar to both the E and the A. This time, put your thumb over your fingers, making a fist. Imagine you're about to strike someone to form the letter S. The last two letters, G and Q, look like each other, but not like any other letter. You make a G with your thumb and index finger parallel to each other. It looks just like the shape of the natural gesture for a little bit. G. Move your fingers into a downward position for Q. Now you've learned all 26 letters of the manual alphabet.